So, Commissioner Ramon's not on call.
He's not.
Okay.
He's just not here today.
So, we have a couple things. Commissioner, you wanted to pass out some sheets and go over the numbers on placement of facilities by population in Arkansas. So we're going to look at this map. And then we stopped on page 5 of dispensaries. So if you want to go to that kidney reflections. So just what I have before me is a map, and Commissioner Miller's going to, Story is going to review this.
So, Madam Chair, what I was saying, I believe last meeting, was when we were talking about, of course, we picked 32 dispensaries. I've handed everybody, and I've got a copy for Dr. Ramon that we can get to him. Effectively, what I've done here is I was coming at it with the kind of understanding that the 4 congressional districts that we have, to me it seems a little hard just because District 1 and District 4 are so big and cover such a big geographic area. What I tried to do was to take the 75 states, and I found a website that uses the 2010 census data and kind of tried to boil down how to spread out the dispensaries a little bit more. And so what I came up with is roughly 8 zones, and I kind of reworked the numbers since we had now decided on the 32 dispensaries, and basically said here's how we could distribute that roughly based on population. So it kind of averages about the 94,000 people per dispensary right now. And what it does is it breaks it down into these 8 zones. So for example, Zone 1 would have 6 dispensaries. It would be located in 4 counties, but that would basically help even out the number of dispensaries to the population. So this is an idea I think makes sense in the sense that it gives us dispensaries that are somewhat even across the state, and it would kind of make sure that no patient had to travel further than necessary. And my thought was, if you look at Section 4, you could end up with all 8 dispensaries really far away, a long distance away from somewhere down here like Drew or Ashley County. And this would put a dispensary a lot closer to them in Zone 7. And I'm happy to take questions on this, but I'd like to propose this to the commission. I think it makes sense in the sense that it's kind of it's dividing up the state a little bit further so that we make sure there are dispensaries within a smaller geographic range to hopefully everyone within the state of Arkansas. But I'd be happy to answer questions on how I got there, or we can
How did you
discuss
get
it.
there?
So basically the way I got there was I kind of looked at the areas based on population. You can see that the color printout, it talks about people per square mile, so it's kind of like a heat map. So if you look at that, it's density, how many people are where. And what I tried to do was figure out how, and I had already split it into 8 zones before we decided on the 32. But I kind of took that and said, now that we have the 32 and we know what the population is, how can I bring these really close to ultimately say, each zone is somewhat equivalent, as close as I could figure out how to get it, to have about the same number of population per dispensary. And so you end up with a relatively close number, even though.
So, for example, you have Zone 7,
Correct.
and you propose 2 dispensary with a dispensary by population of 115,000, but in zone 1, you have 6 dispensary. Are you proposing that a dispensary be per 86,000 population?
Well, it's kind of, those are the far ends of the range.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, it doesn't really, the way I was looking at it was kind of by counties. And it doesn't, I couldn't figure out a great way to make it perfectly even by counties, which I think is one reason why when you look at the congressional map, you know, you've got a lot of these lines that don't necessarily go by county lines. So they're using it by, you know, just pure population, which I think it's harder for us to deal with. But my thought was, even zone 7, which is the least, you know, even if you look at the heat map, the least number of people per square mile. So it's the biggest land area that we have, the lowest density, if you will. We're still saying there have to be two dispensaries in that zone. When if you look at the congressional map, that's probably not where maybe those would end up naturally, because they are so rural compared to some of the other places you could go if you had a license to be in either zone in area 1 or area 4 of the congressional districts.